Toastmasters, honored guests. It turns out that the combination of adrenaline and testosterone doesn't always make for the best decisions. Let me take you back to the summer of 1979. I had just graduated from West Point, and I had about a month before going into Special Forces training with U.S. Army Ranger School. So I thought, why not fill this with a really great adventure? So I had a buddy named Lance Motley, who was just as crazy as I was, and he and I sat down together and we came up with this idea. Let's do something nobody's successfully done ever before. So sound like a great plan. So we picked a river, a stretch of river in northern New Mexico called the Upper Rio Grande Gorge. And there's a 12-mile stretch that has never been run successfully and alive by anybody in a rubber raft. Kayakers have done it, but nobody else has done it. So this stretch is, in comparison to the Grand Canyon, the Grand Canyon in the steepest part has an average drop of 45 feet per mile. And in this stretch of the Upper Rio Grande Gorge, the average drop is 100 feet per mile. So it's a tough river to run. It's filled with boulders and things like this that make the water even rougher. So we said, hey, this is an engineering problem. We're engineers. So we ordered a raft that was this big 15-foot raft, and we set about modifying this thing. We took ropes and we built straps into it so we could put our feet under. We built ropes so we could strap the rower into his seat. We wrapped the entire thing in ropes so that if we get washed out, we could grab on. We had great life vests, and we decided, hey, motorcycle helmets are a good idea because they're stronger than those typical river rafting helmets, and if we get bashed against rocks, we might survive. So we were ready, we packed up, and then I took my car and we went to the gorge. The gorge is deep. It's about 600 feet deep. So we hiked down there and we walked the entire thing to make sure we were prepared. I wanted to know, where are the spots that are going to kill us? And how do we get around those spots? So we did that. We thought we had a good take on that, and we went up and hiked out and talked to the river rangers. And the river rangers were completely unhelpful. They said stuff like, 5 people have died here in the last 2 years, and you've got to be crazy to even think about it. And plus, we're not going to let you do it, because we're not going to let you in at the put-in point before the gorge. Kayakers, yes. Rubber rafts, no. So we, of course, logically, completely ignored this advice, and we headed for Colorado, which was too far north for them to block us from getting into the river. So we put into the river. I left my car up there, and we came floating down. It took us 3 days on really flat water, so we were exhausted by the time we get to the gorge. And when we get there, it's the morning of the 4th day. We come around this bend, and all at once the water just drops away where you can't see it from the water level. You're on the flat part of the river. And the noise was just this rumble. It was like shaking the canyon walls, it seemed to us. But also there was this odd sound. There was these bangs, bang, bang. And we look up, and at the top of the 500-foot cliff, there's a state trooper, and he's throwing these M8 firecrackers down at us. Waving, get out of the river, get out of the river. And there's river rangers around him, they're all waving. There's people with cameras wanting to take pictures of these idiots that are about to die. And so we waved back and we continued on. And I had my feet in straps up at the front, and I had a paddle. My goal was to keep the nose of the craft into the wave so that it doesn't flip us sideways. And Lance was in the middle with the big oars. He was our power. So we started in and we came around the bend. Well, that first drop off, the wave that came crashing back from the rocks curled over my head, ripped me out of my great engineered straps, and sent me out of the boat. Well, luckily Lance grabbed me as I exited the boat and pulled me back in. So I clawed my way back to the front along the ropes we had well designed. And I grabbed on with the front. I still had my paddle, but now I'm paddling with one hand because I figured out, you've got to hold on. And so we we make it 4 miles down the river in this fashion, and by this time we're starting to get, oh man, we got this thing, we got it going. We hit disaster number 1. The river took us between 2 giant boulders that funneled the water together, and it turned us into what they call a Colorado sandwich, which is that it takes the raft lengthwise and it folds it like this. So that wasn't great, but we popped open, so that was great, but unfortunately it snapped one of our oars. So now we've got 1 oar and 1 guy with a paddle. So our single point of failure was not well calculated. Now we're at the mercy of the river. We're basically just going down the river helplessly while people snap pictures from up above. And we end up going over a waterfall about 4 miles farther down, and then getting sucked under, taken to the bottom, kicked out, sucked back under, and this went on for a long time. We finally got kicked out far enough where we managed to paddle ourselves to one of the banks, and we figured out, wrong shore. We need to be on that shore if we're going to get out of this canyon, because we can't continue on with the state we're in. So we paddle like crazy to get across before we hit the next set of rapids. And we make it, but we're exhausted, so we sleep that night. We've lost half our equipment, including the ability to inflate the raft. The next day, we have this climb out of the canyon, carrying the raft. So 4.5 hours later, we reach the top. And then we got to go back down and get the rest of our stuff. We do that, and we hide all this stuff, and we drop it off, and we go ask the river rangers for help. This did not go well. So, next thing we know, we're hitchhiking down the road, trying to get back to our car. And nobody will pick up these 2 guys in swimsuits that are all torn up, skinned up, and haven't shaved in about 5 days. So I tell Lance, maybe they'll pick up one of us. So I'm going to continue on. So I walked along the highway. Well, luckily, just after dark, these 2 ex-convicts from the state pen in New Mexico picked me up. And fortunately, they took me to my car, and our trip came to a survivable end. But after that was over, as I was getting ready for Ranger School, I thought, it would have been really nice if I'd have rested up instead of getting beat up. And a wise hobbit once said, adventures are nasty, uncomfortable things. And I would add, testosterone and adrenaline don't make for a wise hobbit.